The air crackled with the kind of tension that makes your stomach twist. Like the moment before a storm breaks. Karen's voice, shrill and dripping with entitlement, sliced through the quiet of my front yard like a chainsaw through butter. "You will let me in, you little nobody," she bellowed, her chins wobbling as she jabbed a manicured finger at me. Karen, all 300 pounds of her, loomed on my porch, her designer sunglasses perched atop her head like a crown she thought she deserved. Her face, caked with makeup that couldn't hide her sneer, was the portrait of someone who believed the world owed her everything. I stood my ground, arms crossed, on the threshold of my own homie, a home she swore was hers. The conflict was simple. Karen, my former neighbor turned self-proclaimed landlord, demanded access to my house, claiming it was her property. She'd been evicted from her own place next door months ago for unpaid taxes. And now she was here, spinning a wild tale about a deed that never existed. The audacity was almost admirable, if it wasn't so infuriating. It started 3 weeks ago when Karen first waddled up my driveway, her heels clicking like a countdown to chaos. "I own this block," she declared, waving a crumpled piece of paper she called proof. I'd laughed then, thinking it was a bad joke. But Karen didn't joke. She bullied. She'd spent years terrorizing the neighborhood, snapping at kids for riding bikes too close to her lawn, reporting suspicious delivery drivers, and once calling the cops on Mrs. Nguyen for planting tulips she deemed too bright. Nobody liked Karen, but nobody crossed her. Until me. Today, she'd escalated. Her SUV was parked crookedly across my driveway, blocking my car. She'd brought a locksmith, a wiry guy named Pete who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, and a duffel bag she claimed held her belongings from her house. The neighbors, Mr. Carter, the retired vet, and Lisa, the single mom who worked nights, peeked from their windows, drawn by the commotion. Karen didn't notice. She was too busy yelling. "This is my house," she screeched, her voice hitting a pitch that could shatter glass. "I've got the deed. You're squatting, and I'll have you arrested." I leaned against the doorframe, unfazed. "Karen, you've never owned this place. I bought it fair and square in 2019. Check the county records." Her eyes narrowed. Venomous. "You think you're smart. I've got connections. I'll sue you into the ground." She turned to Pete, who was fumbling with his tools, clearly regretting taking this job. "Hurry up and open this door, or you're fired." Pete glanced at me, apologetic. "Lady, I don't know what's going on here." "Then do your job," Karen snapped, cutting him off. That's when I heard the sirens. Someone, probably Lisa, had called the cops. 2 officers pulled up, their cruiser's lights flashing lazily in the fading daylight. Officer Daniels, a stocky guy with a mustache, stepped out first, followed by Officer Ruiz, who looked like she'd seen it all. Karen's face lit up like she'd won the lottery. "Officers," she cried, waddling toward them. "This man's trespassing in my house. Arrest him." Daniels raised an eyebrow, glancing at me. I held up my hands, calm as could be. "She's got no claim, officer. I've got the deed, the title, everything. She's been harassing me for weeks." Karen's face turned purple. "Liar. I've lived here for years. My name's on the deed." She rummaged through her bag, pulling out a crumpled document and thrusting it at Daniels. "See. Proof." Daniels scanned the paper, his lips twitching. He handed it to Ruiz. who couldn't hide her smirk. "Ma'am," Daniel said, his voice dry as desert sand. "This is a lease agreement for the house next door, and it's expired." The crowd now including old Mr. Carter, who'd shuffled out to his porch, let out a collective chuckle. Karen froze, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. That's a mistake," she stammered. "I have the real deed at home." "Then go get it," I said, my voice steady but sharp. "But you're not stepping foot in my house." Karen's eyes darted around, searching for an escape. She wasn't used to losing. She'd built her little empire on bluster and intimidation. But it was crumbling now, and she knew it. "You'll regret this," she hissed, pointing at me. "I'll ruin you." "Ma'am," Ruiz cut in, her tone firm. "Step back from the property. We'll need to see some actual documentation if you're making a claim." Karen's bravado faltered, but she wasn't done. She turned to the neighbors, who were now openly watching. "You're all witnesses," she shouted. "This is theft. I'll sue every one of you." "Mr. Carter snorted. "Lady, the only thing you're stealing is our patience." The crowd laughed again, louder this time. Karen's face twisted with rage. But there was something else there too, panic. She wasn't just losing face. She was losing control. For years, she'd wielded her self-righteous fury like a club. But now it was slipping from her grasp. Daniel stepped closer, his voice low but authoritative. "Ma'am, if you don't leave, we'll have to escort you off the property. And trust me, you don't want that." Karen's hands clenched into fists, her rings glinting in the dying light. For a moment, I thought she'd explode, scream, cry, maybe even swing at someone. But then she deflated, her shoulders slumping. She shot me one last venomous glare before storming to her SUV, nearly tripping over her own duffel bag. Pete, the locksmith, mumbled an apology and scurried after her, clearly done with this circus. As her SUV peeled out, tires screeching, the neighbors erupted into quiet cheers. Lisa gave me a thumbs up from across the street. "Mr. Carter shook his head, muttering, "Good riddance." Daniels turned to me, a grin tugging at his mouth. "You handled that well. She's been a pain in our precinct for years." "Thanks," I said, exhaling. "She's been a pain in my life for weeks." Ruiz chuckled. "Next time she shows up, call us. We could use the entertainment." As the officers drove off, I stood on my porch, the weight of the confrontation settling in. Karen's meltdown wasn't just about a house site, it was about her need to dominate, to bend the world to her will. She'd built her identity on being the loudest, the meanest, the one who always got her way. But today, she'd met a wall she couldn't bully through. The next morning, word spread. Karen had tried her stunt at another neighbor's house, claiming their property too. The county clerk confirmed what we all knew. Her name wasn't on a single deed in the neighborhood. Her connections were as real as her manners. By noon, a for sale sign went up on her old house, and rumors swirled that she'd skipped town, too embarrassed to show her face. I didn't hate Karen. Not really. She was a product of her own choices, trapped in a cycle of her own making. But there was something satisfying poetic, even about watching her empire of entitlement collapse under the weight of her own lies. The neighborhood felt lighter without her shadow looming over it. Sometimes, justice isn't a courtroom or a gavel. Sometimes, it's just a moment when the truth catches up. and the bully finally falls. For Karen, that moment came on my porch, under the watchful eyes of neighbors who'd had enough. And for me, it was a reminder, stand your ground. And the Karens of the world don't stand a chance.